Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, J Weeks Entertainment is proud to present to you the exclusive interview with our cast of our brand new stage play, Just Listen, What Men Don't Say, Volume 2. This stage play features none other than Mr. Ron Lee McGill, who was born and raised in Durham, North Carolina, and is currently residing in Charlotte, North Carolina as an actor, writer, graphic illustrator, and content creator. Ron can last be seen on stage for the Children's Theater of Charlotte in such productions as Last Stop on Market Street and is the co-creator and star of Grimm's Hip Hop Fairy Tales. This stage play also features our very own CEO and founder, Mr. J the Actor, who's an actor, writer, director, and teacher. This interview is being facilitated by J Weeks Entertainment's own Mr. Joshua J. Boogie Hill. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for the cast of Just Listen, the stage play.
All right, it's your man Jay Boogie. For those of y'all that know, we go back. Jay Boogie for those that know. I'm here with two special people. If you don't know, you're about to find out. We got a great play coming to you guys. Just Listen, the stage play, What Men Don't Say, Volume 2. And I got the stars with me. You want to know what's about? We're going to get into it and find out. You guys ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, so we're going to start off with something slight. I'm going to get into some icebreakers, the cut any tension that may be there, just to throw y'all in the spotlight. First thing I want to know, if there was to be a stage play of your life, who would you want to play you? Man. And don't say, oh, I got to have Denzel play me. Who gonna do you justice?
Oh man, so okay, I got one off rip. Mm-hmm. Definitely, I need a few more years to get to this point, but it would have to be my son King, man. King is definitely he's like everything I wanted to be as a kid. Has confidence out of this world. He doesn't have a shy bone in his body. He's ready to dance, perform on the spot, has no fear. And he's only 9. So the confidence that he has for that. But then also in that same breath, he watches everything I do. If I drink my coffee a certain way, if I make my drink a certain way, he's like, nah, I like mine like this. Like, when you start adding extra ice cubes to your drink, oh no, this is how I drink it now. And it really took my wife for me to really show me like, yo, everything you do, he's doing. So with that, I know King being King, he's gonna kill it because he's gonna know all the mannerisms. He already have most of them now. And sometimes it's scary looking at him, seeing the same face and knowing he does this thing I used to always do as a kid. Whenever I wanted something, I had like a little smirk, like, yeah, Mom, can I? And he's been doing that since he's like 4. He'd be like, yeah, I just, I saw Robux and, I was just trying, see if I can, get some Robux. And then he'd be like, go ahead, man. So if I had to pick someone to do a story about my life and be me, it would definitely have to be my son King. So that's me. What about Ronnie? What Ronnie got over here?
Oh man. Okay.
It was a tough one.
I know it was gonna be so close to heart. You know what I'm saying? Essence. Nah, but I was because I felt like I've always been told. I mean, like for real, I've always been told that my little brother Rashad was a lot like me growing up. As I was at that age. But since you dropped the son, I can't follow that up. Like, forget all that. All right, so I probably, like for real, probably at this point in life, who's my man? He was like the lead and When They See Us, and he's in I Am Virgo. I'm a Virgo now. I don't know if y'all saw that.
I saw the clip of it.
Yeah, I don't know his name, and I don't want to like look it up. I don't want to like Google it now and it be like be all savvy and stuff like that. But, nah, but my man right there, I think he has an innocence and an awkwardness that I think that would probably go well with like my personality, as well as this type of story I would want to tell, and it be a bit offbeat. But at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of fire that could be underneath the surface too. Within that awkwardness, within that, there could be times of frustration and stuff. And I think that he's capable of the layers to tell my life, and in a way that I think I would probably come away with from the project satisfied. So I probably have to say him. And I should probably Google.
Is that to do with you talking about the one with the curly hair?
The one who like the giant kid, like the one who's the giant.
Okay.
And stuff in the. Oh no.
I think his name like Jerome or something.
Jarrell Jerome.
Yeah, Jarrell Jerome.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay. All right. So that seemed like a little bit of a tough one there for you guys.
Hey, we didn't know you was coming swinging like that.
That's nail biter, man. You gotta.
Okay. So I'll dial it back a little. So when you guys are in your preparation, you're learning your lines and going over things on set, when it's like that time to where you just got to have like a 5-minute break, what do you do during that time? Is it going back over lines, or do you completely remove yourself from it, or do you like take that time to like stay immersed in that character? What do you do during that like 5-minute break?
I'll let Ron go first.
Okay, so 5-minute break, as in like, is this like during a rehearsal process or?
Yep, and let's say they say cut, take 5. Like, what do you do during that take 5? Do you maintain that character, or do you completely remove yourself to give yourself and your body a break? Like, what do you do during that cut?
I think it would have to be a lot to do with what's going on. Not necessarily the medium itself, whether it be like film or stage or anything like that. I think that especially with character acting, it could be hard. It could be hard to slip that on and off. So you may want to stay within that. As opposed to, you may be, well within an emotion right there, and you might want to hold on to that. Or you might want to let that go and process it. So I think it has a lot to do with what's going on, and at the same time, the rehearsal, the phase, like the time within the rehearsal process, you may want to go over your lines. You may want to just kind of sink into the vibe of what's going on within the story and capture that. So I think it would depend on a couple factors, but if I can. I like to stay within that mode. If it's just 5 minutes, I want to stay within that mode and stay within that rhythm. That when it's time to come back to work and it's time to do it, we can just go right back in. So I think if it's just 5 minutes, I want to stay within that essence.
Yeah, I would agree to those sentiments. I try to stay in that mode, to just stay laser focused in that zone until, if we're on stage, obviously until I do that curtain call and take that bow, like I'm locked into that character. Even if I have an earlier scene and I'm not, on, I try to still just stay in that moment, because a lot of times on stage, you might have an earlier scene and might not have another scene till later on, like Act 2 or something, or may not have, another line or another scene besides that. So I try to also keep in that mode to kind of, if I'm not, performing or staying in that character, just trying to lock into the mode of the actual show. Because that also can be helpful to your counterparts, also to your castmates. Because, you never know what they're trying to prepare for. So you don't want to, mess up their rhythm or whatever their routine is. So for me, trying to stay in that zone is definitely most helpful for me and for everybody.
Okay. So Now, now I got one for y'all that's going stir the internet up.
Let's
Okay.
go.
Right.
Let's go.
I'm gonna give you 5 actors.
Okay.
All right.
One of their bodies of work has to go.
Okay.
Like it can't exist no more.
Let's get it.
All right. So you got Denzel Washington.
Mm-hmm.
You got Jamie Foxx.
Mm-hmm.
You got Morgan Freeman.
Mm-hmm.
You got Lawrence Fishburne.
Mm.
And you got Forrest Whitaker. Whose body of work can the people, it never existed. It's got to go. You need those names again?
No, Ron said he ready. Go ahead.
So you got yours already.
You know what? You know what? You know what? It's a cop out, but I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna go for it. I hate to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I hope you know he doesn't hear this and ever take offense. Nah, because he's absolutely the man. But I'm gonna go ahead and say Jamie Foxx.
Oh. Okay.
On the basis that this man is not a one talent, he's not a two, he's a triple threat, maybe quadruple threat when you add in stand up. You know, I mean,
Singing.
I mean, are we talking about, because I'm saying, like, okay, film work, because everybody else just has film work. So if we take away Jamie Foxx's film work,
I'm just leaving just film work. Just film.
Still got his stand up. Still got his music.
I can take that.
Let me call Jamie right now and let him know.
Because he's so talented. Because he's so talented.
Yes. I would have to say, and I love The Last King of Scotland, but
Bruh, what?
I would have to say of that list though. Of that list. I mean, because like you said, Jamie does, I mean, one of the probably most talented people we know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Denzel is in a realm of his own. And then, you know, Morgan Freeman's like, how could you really? It's so much of that. Let's stick with Forrest Whitaker.
It's a lot of voiceovers.
Yes, it's just
a lot of voiceovers.
I mean, he's somebody you want to navigate your funeral. Like, I mean, you know, he's just that. He just has that.
Discovery Channel's in trouble.
Right.
National Geographic. What? Come on now. Nah, but I mean, have you ever seen Forrest Whitaker? Okay, all right, I respect it. It reminds me, I saw The Crying Game in college. I always heard about it, but I didn't know what it was about. But it's like, yo, Crying Game, you know what I mean? But seeing that whole movie and seeing what it was about, and I'm like, why are we here right now? Why are we talking about this? I thought this movie was about this, but it was about something totally different. Right. It was wrapped around in like North Ireland and in England and that domestic terrorism. It was wild. It was absolutely wild, man. But hey, I respect it though. I respect it.
After Godfather of Harlem, he's staying there. I can't get rid of it.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's so what?
That's a mean one.
Okay, so now that we got that out the way, let's jump into why we're here, and that's for the upcoming production of Just Listen to Stage Play, What Men Don't Say Volume 2. So in your guys' own words, let's say you're in an elevator about to get off and somebody says, oh, where you're headed to, you got to give them a quick 5-10 second spill of what this play is about. How do you break it down to them?
Nice elevator pitch.
Yep.
Prefer to Ron too.
I'm gonna say this is the show that masculinity covers up. I feel like this is the show that or at least and when I say masculinity, I mean like the machismo. Like this is what goes on behind those stoic faces of your grandfather, of your father, of your uncle, you know, of your little brother. You know what I mean? Like this is what when boys were told not to cry, and then and you're a man and men don't cry. This is what was happening behind those scenes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I would just add my quick little tidbits would be, if you had the opportunity to have open and honest dialogue with men and ask them anything you wanted, but you had to listen to their answer. That's what this plays. This gives you the opportunity to, as the title says, just listen. Because it is my understanding and my belief that if you allow people to talk long enough about themselves, you good, bad, and different. You hear how they feel about things, what they like, what they dislike, their upbringing. You hear so many different stories. As someone who talks a lot myself, I know you give me an opportunity to talk a lot, I'm gonna tell you about my whole life, and just throughout my encounters of just talking to other men, realize that a lot of things, like Ron said, we mask. We don't really talk about, and it's not in a sense of like, oh, this is like a cheat code to how to break men. It's just really, let me just introduce the conversation. And that's why I said just listen. And being a second version of the first show, which was called What Men Don't Say. So What Men Don't Say, it was a one-person show. So I did that show and collaborated with my mother to create the show and write it. And I, did all three characters by myself. And it had that what I described as barbershop conversations, right? We all fellas, we know how it is to go in the barbershop and you get your hair cut. You're going to hear any and everything going on in the barbershop. You're going to hear some pop culture. You're going to talk about sports. But your barbers are like, it's like the Black Man's Country Club, right? It's where you get all your information. And so the first version of this, of What Men Don't Say, was those barbershop conversations that you heard about as a kid when your mom dropped you off on that Saturday and you waiting for your turn. And you listen to all these grown men talking like, what? You hearing all these things that, your parents or mom has tried to keep you away from, but now you're hearing all these things. And that was the first version. And I think this version, the just listening, was always something that I wanted to do. And I always thought there was more to it, but it took me 10 years now to actually really get to a point where I felt comfortable with it. But the second version is just listen, where we're going to take it deeper. Now that we've heard these conversations, now let me just see what these fellas are talking about. And I think just listen gives the opportunity for us to listen, not to listen to respond, but just to listen what people have to say. And I'm sure that if you ask any man a question and you got opportunities for them to actually articulate their thoughts, I'm sure you will be shocked with some of the things. Because let's be honest, we fellas, there's things that we don't want to do all the time. That's just human nature. But I don't all the time want to go to work. I don't all the time want to go pump gas and, all the things that are quote unquote supposed to be men things. We don't always want to do those things. But on the other side of that, do people really care that you don't want to do those things? Right? So it's like you still do it. And that's why I say it doesn't necessarily like a hack or a cheat code to say, here, if you go to this play, you're going to learn all these things about men. It's just to open up the conversation. We know we can't cure or fix, things within our community in one session. But if we can at least start the conversation to spark it, then why not? Why not create that dialogue to start it off? It's my very long elevator pitch.
Yeah, that was Empire State Building.
That's the tallest building. Hey, we done went back up and then came back on the elevator.
Some old school joints with the lever on it.
Right. You gotta wind that joint up.
Elevator. So let's go.
So with that, what was the challenging part about bringing this script to life?
So I mentioned I just saw on Facebook, shout out to Facebook, that I premiered the first show like 10 or 11 years ago. What Men Don't Say. So knowing that I always had, my notes, because I always keep my notes with me, my notepad. So anytime I get an idea, I write it down. But knowing that I had, 10, I would say more like 6 or 7 years of just notes and just kind of things that I wanted to have. The harder part for me was like putting it together and deciding how many characters, right? And did I also want to do a one-person show? I love doing one-person shows because it allows me to, show my range of versatility. But I knew with this one, I wanted to be different. And one of the challenge things for me, the off rip was I knew that I wanted Ron Lee McGill in this show, but I didn't know he knew that I wanted him in the show. So my first thing for me was, okay, I need to kind of give him this whole pitch to say like why he needs to do this show. And to me, that was a challenge because it was a shot in the dark. We haven't done a show together since 2013 was when we first got the opportunity to work together. But because of the dynamic and some of the things I've learned through Ron and just building, what we built with for Black Boys, I definitely knew that he was the person that I wanted specifically. So that was a challenge for me, hoping that I was going to be able to get this, this sales pitch to be like, hey, let me tell you why you got to do this show. And Ron being Ron, he was kind of like, I felt like he was like, you don't got to give me a pitch. Just tell me what it is. And if I'm available, I can do it. But needless to say, he let me get my whole pitch out. But that was some of my immediate things, but also knowing that we live in two different states. Definitely challenge, is we don't have the traditional rehearsal, timeline. But us both being professionals, we found ways to work out through, Zoom and being able to travel back and forth to one state or another. But that was some of the immediate challenges for me. Now, I don't know what challenges Ron may face just having to hear my pitch or just kind of even accepting the project because he didn't have to say yes. So I'll be interested to hear what Ron have to say.
No, to be frank with you, like when it comes to this industry and it comes to the craft of acting and stuff like that, you're brought up and you see the beauty of this art, and as time goes by, you get older, you have different experiences, life becomes different. So the way that you approach a play or you approach a show, you start factoring in things that that you hadn't factored in before, and sometimes that weighs on the creative process. So every time I jump on a show and really engage myself, I'm always coming from somewhere different. I'm always coming from a different walk of life. And so you evaluate your life, you evaluate what this project requires, and you see where you have to be in order to truly give into what the project deserves, and to truly give yourself as an artist, that satisfaction of I'm committing to this piece, and I'm committing to this art form in a way that I respect, and I am respected within it. So coming to this, I feel like this is definitely a piece that 10 years ago when we were doing Black Boys, I may not have been ready for. I may not have been in my, my range and what in my process and how I tackle the process. I think that life experience has made this piece and when I'm reading a little more palpable, a little more. It hits a little different. So the approach and the ideas behind it, I think that is the challenge. I think that's in the challenge, and within understanding these men, who these men are, and how they come to be, and how I can now relate, being a decade since me and Jay Weeks first got together and was able to collab in our artistries. I think that would be the challenge, and it's never a negative thing. You know what I'm saying? It's a challenge that we as artists. It's just that tick within us. It's that tick within us that is like, okay, this is tough, but this is my thing. Right. This is my bag, and this is the type of stuff that, though I know is hard and it requires a lot of sacrifice, it's just something within me that has to go and attack this thing. So I think it's understanding the challenges within yourself, and you always want to bring something different out. And I always feel like, and I'm sorry for rambling if I'm rambling, but at this stage in life, there are certain things that are required to bring out certain emotions, certain understandings through the character and connect with the audience now. And so, it's with the new skill, it comes a new sacrifice and a new discipline to bring that out. So I think that's really the challenges that I'm facing right now. But with those challenges, man, and damn it if it don't unlock something brand new. You know what I'm saying? It's like a really good video game. You know what I mean? Like you go through the quest and all the challenges and everything like that, and man, you unlock the new tool.
Right.
So
I love that answer. We're gonna go further into that, but not right now.
okay.
I'm gonna dial it back a little for the show as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to surprise people about this show?
I mean, there's a couple of things we're thinking about.
Without any spoilers.
Without any spoilers. The best I can say is that, and man, it sounds so cliche. Never judge a book by its cover. No, with this one, like we're gonna peel back layers, and you may get initial responses. You may have initial reactions and stuff that we really want people to have dialogue about this. So there may be some things that may be challenging for the average person to understand. It may be some things that are challenging for women to understand. You know, it may be some challenging things for men to understand about themselves and be able to deal with. You know what I mean? But this is what we that's what we aim to do. That's what we aim to accomplish. So yeah, I would say that's what you can expect. Expect to have a really good conversation.
Really.
Expect to have a really good conversation.
Yeah. This is like one of those 6 or 7 layer cakes. Like every character has layers. I think that would be one of the most surprising things, that every character has layers. And the last thing I would say about it would be this play will evoke you to decide on whether you want to go with your heart or your mind. It will force you to like, my heart says one thing, but my mind is saying it different. I think it evokes that type of thing, which thus, as Ron said, is going to evoke that dialogue, because it's something you have to talk about to really get a grasp and understand of like, what just happened?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so with that, let's get into the play itself.
Mm-hmm.
With the play, is it, monologues? Is there dialogues? What can people expect from the play?
So it's in the series of kind of like how the first one was a monologue style. So there's 4 characters. We're split characters. Ron has 2 characters. I have 2 characters. It's all monologue style. And in between, you'll have so pretty much one character will go. You have them going off, exiting off, and then the next character comes on. So technically, we're not on the stage at the same time. But since we are an ensemble, we're always on the stage at the same time. But, but yeah, it's not a dialogue that are between Ron and myself, but it's more in the style of monologues.
Okay. So with that, with these characters, is there a character that you identify with the most, or is there a character that you identify with the least? Like when you had to take on these roles, was it easy for you to take on these roles, or is it you had to put yourself in a different headspace because there was characters that the total opposite of who you are as a person?
Well, I would say that on some level, as I grow older, you get exposed to certain circumstances that on even the smallest level, like you can at least understand where all these characters are coming from. You may have faced a similar situation that, though you may not have made that same choice, you were presented with that, and you may have wondered, what would have happened if you had made that choice. With that being said, I feel that both of my characters that I am portraying right now. One I can kind of connect with a little more, but that one I don't connect with as much. I'm understanding, and I'm making sense of it for me in my head as to how one would come to that situation. And I don't want to give away characters or nothing like that. But I am, yeah, man. Like one is hitting a little harder than the other one, because it's like I'm hearing my day to day, and I'm hearing the conversations that I'm having with my significant other, and as I'm saying this stuff, I'm like, that's what son said, and I'm like, that's where he's coming from, and I'm like, do I want to end up being that story for real? And I'm like, oh man, like, okay, let me, I'm kind of going through my head, so it's like, as I'm seeing these words and I'm seeing these pages, and I'm like, you kind of see yourself, you kind of see a path that you might, a similar path. So it's I say for that, yeah, I'm connecting, and it's scary as much as it is, challenging and thrilling, and satisfying for the art form. But we cannot negate that we're talking about real people here, not like real people as in like, this is based on a real person per se, but we're talking about layered people with complicated motives, complicated backgrounds, and at the end of the day, they're making decisions like we're making decisions.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, and definitely for me, as being the writer and also being actually active for it, I think I love all the characters because obviously I created them, but I think for me, I try to attach myself to one of the characters. I try to make sure that I try to make as least of me in it. But as a writer, you're always going to have, all writers have elements of themselves in their works. That's just going to happen. But I would say one of my characters is probably more so I'm leaning towards, just because it's so opposite of me. I like to gravitate to those characters that are so different. Even when I used to be at NCCU and I used to get like all the nice characters, I'm like, man, give me the master anger, give me the villain. Like, I'm trying to be the hero. Let me be the villain. So I've always tried to go against the grain and try to find, characters that are more challenging. And I think with this one of my characters has pushed me to that point of like, okay, you got to find it. Because this is not, when you have something that is you can easily say, oh, I can grab a little bit from here, switch. But when it's kind of opposite of you, it's great because it's a fear of like, how am I going to do this? But also you can't rely on what you know, which means you have to create this character literally from the ground up, which gives him so much more layers and so much more complexity versus something that I already know. It's like it's like playing for one team and playing for another team. It's like you come in with all those bad habits that you had from the other team. But if you've never played basketball ever and you like, shoot, I got to learn how to play basketball. That's how I like to approach my characters, to come against the grain. This opposite is like, all right, how can I do this? And all right, let me build this. What's his name? And doing that character development and giving them a background. And I even with writing, one of the things me and Ron talked about in the script was like, when we first did the first read through, Ron was like, man, it's such a lot, but it's really not. He's like, it's a little bit it's a little bit things that they're saying, but it's also a lot at the same token. So it's a lot of room for the actor to kind of take that control to really create it, but also it allows that audience mind to wonder and go to like, what else about this character, to inquire a lot about it. So I didn't want to just give everything, like I'm gonna tell you his whole life story in this one monologue, because I feel like in that it's like, well, I don't need to hear anything else about it because you told everything. But it's enough to like we said in the very beginning, to spark that dialogue. And so all of the characters I love, but there are characters that my character, I'd say, is definitely a harder one for me, just because it's so opposite. But it's a challenge that I am willing to accept because I know at the end it's going to be all worth it. So,
Gotcha. I love those answers because it sets up perfectly my next question. So I'm pretty sure both of you guys are familiar with Michael B. Jordan and Dansom Idris.
mm-hmm.
In interviews, they talked about the respective roles that they did, Killmonger and Franklin Saint. The mindset that they had to put themselves in to accomplish those roles, like they embodied and became their character.
Right.
For you guys, you just talked about how a couple of those roles were, ones that you made, you found some things in them, but you had to stretch yourself to get and become that person. What type of mental toll or mindset do you have to put yourself in to become that character?
I would say everyone has a different process. A lot of the things that Dancer Aegis are speaking about, if for my actors out there, acting students, Uta Hagen, the respect for acting is, like a dictionary Bible for many of us. But one of the things that she talks about in that book is emotional recall and creating these characters and different things. So some people have what's called like a method acting. Like if your character smokes, I'm going to smoke too because I need to get into the character. So I think every actor has a different process of how they go about it. I heard Dempsey talk about like he had to say, "All right, Devil, come on, Devil, like come on," to be able to get to that point. And everyone has a different one. For me, I've always tried to rely on the magic what if, right? If I'm a drug dealer, I ain't never sold drugs a day in my life, but what if I was? What are the things that I would need to have to make this realistic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I try to always create that, and I always say creating your world, right? Creating your world, your circumstance, your situation, which really comes with character development. Like, who's my character's name? What do they do? What do their parents do? What are their fun? Answering all those questions for me allows me to create the world for the character. So by me building that world for this character, it allows me to get into that zone. But like I said, some people may have like, all right, I remember when I seen Nino Brown, so I'm gonna channel my inner Nino Brown to get into this character. And I find different things work, and I don't feel that one way is right or other. I actually love when people have a different way, like, oh, how did you get into that character? Oh, I did this, and this, or, but I think really overall, it taps into a place of you finding some type of truth and also fear. You have to get to that thing. It's like, I know on the other side of what I don't know or fear or not knowing about this character is greatness, but am I willing to take that leap of faith and whatever that your hurdle to get over, whether it's, like I said, channeling that devil, becoming a method actor or, channeling someone else or using, different pieces throughout your life or whatever the case may be. I think once you're willing to make the steps to become great, is on the other side of that fear and doubt and insecurity and how I'm going to do this is that greatness. So I try to rely on creating this whole world and universe of who this person is. So if someone said, hey, how did your character? Oh, they 17. What do they do for, like, I can answer more of those questions. And I think that makes it real to me and allows me to kind of get into the zone.
Yeah, just to piggyback off that, because that's really, as Jay Week said, creating that universe, that's one of my favorite things to do. And as you said, like with making that list of, hey, their name, when they were born, what's their favorite color, what music did they like, what kind of food did they eat, what happened at this age, that age. I love going down that. I really love going down that gauntlet. I feel like whenever you get time to allot that and to open that space and to set that up, that's magnificent. From that point, I personally kind of view it as not so much a universe, but as it's like a skin almost. It's like a full body costume. It's like being John Malkovich and walking into somebody's head, or like a Megazord or something like that. And it's like, you know what I mean? You're just surrounded and shrouded within this cocoon of this being. A lot of my approach is very cerebral, and in getting to that character and in finding that psychology and basically embodying that character. So when I'm looking in my mind, I don't look the same way. I don't dress the same way. I don't walk the same way. I don't sound the same as what I'm doing in my head. I'm kind of sitting backseat to this person who is living through me right now. And a really good trigger that I use, I found that in my personal performance and everything like that, I more perform more as a musician, as opposed to in my opinion, as opposed to a traditional actor, in that I can't do certain things the exact same way. I gotta put a certain flair, or I gotta find that vibe, and music becomes a very important part within getting into that role, within getting into that skin. So I find what music that my character would listen to, and I listen to that, and as I listen to that, I start going through pictures in their head. I start going through family photos. I start going through whether it be like if they did military service, college, kids stuff. I go through certain scenes of their family, their grandparents, their parents, their cousins, and by the time I'm here, I'm seeing all these photos, I'm seeing all this life happen, and I'm just able to sit back and appreciate this person that has allowed me to live their life for that particular moment of time. And when it's really good, and you know what I mean, you can really get into it, and you block everything else out, and you just fit into that skin. It's one of the beautiful things, and it allows you to stay within that. So
that's great. So with that, you talk about, putting on this skin and getting into this world, leading up to the performance of this character, of this world. Is this something where you're taking off the skin when you go home, or is it something that you gradually leave on to get comfortable with so that you can fully embody this character? Or is it something where it's like, I leave it at the set, I leave it at the studio? Or is it, I leave this on and I see things out in the real world that I want to add to my character, so I put it in my tool belt and keep it on until I'm done with the performance as a whole?
With that, you learn the complexities of the human mind when it comes to really putting on these skins. And as you get older, things take its toll. Not so much physical, of course, physical, because we're performers and you have to keep your body up, but in terms of psychology, when you pick up certain roles and you put that thing on, like Idris, come on devil, come on devil, come on devil. You got to make sure the devil doesn't stick around. And certain things and certain actors go through certain processes where they put on that skin, where they have to take therapy to separate themselves from that. This is fine. This is literally manipulating your human emotions, much as a athlete would manipulate their bodies. You know what I'm saying? And just as a ACL can snap, boy, you mess around, get triggered on the wrong thing and holding on to certain stuff, you have to be very careful with that. And so I think that it's a mixture of both. I think that when it comes to creating safe spaces for yourself, that you can inhabit a character that may not be as socially comfortable in certain situations that you may personally have not responded to, but no, that wasn't me, that was somebody else. And
Right.
people may think you crazy, but that's what we do. We're a bit off, because you have to literally access a part of your mind and go to a totally different personality. So I think that it's really having to do with how much of a safe space you can create for yourself and letting people know around you that, hey, if you're going to pick up this character, hey, this may be what you need to expect. You got to be careful about that sometimes, because certain things can flare up in your mind, and certain things can trigger that you've picked up professionally, but it bleeds over into your real life.
Yeah.
So it's a responsibility. Just as you grow older as an actor and a performer and an artist, to know where those lines are. You know what I mean?
No. Yeah, definitely. I would definitely kind of piggyback off that to say, for me, I try my best to take that, like, when I take my bow, or when they say cut and I'm done for the day, I try to just leave it there. And that's why I always tell myself, like, I leave everything on the stage, or if I'm in film, whatever, leave it on set, leave it at that moment. I know for me, because in my personal life, I like to joke, laugh, have fun. I'm never serious, because my theory is life is already too serious. Like, what I'm gonna be super serious for in my normal life? But I know that once I'm in actor mode, when I'm Jay the actor, it's like, you work with me, Josh. It's like the lights turn off for me and everything is black and I can't see anything besides what I'm doing. And the only thing that's illuminated is, my character or whatever I'm working on in that moment. And so for me, I got to take this off, because I know, as Ron said, I know the dangers of taking that home, or, taking it with me, and how that can easily bleed over, especially if you're someone like myself who's super intense and like focused. And Ron mentioned in 2013 when we did a show together for Black Boys, he'll tell you when everyone else was out doing this and that, where was I? I was always in the room, locked in, right? I never hung out. Not that I didn't want to. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Y'all good? Okay, cool. I was always in me, because to me being in artist mode, to me, is so sacred to me that I can't let anyone else disrupt or even mess up anything within that. So to me, I hold it that sacred to me that I don't want anyone else to be in that realm of, it's like being in a bubble almost for me. It's like, I respect and I'm cool with you in that, but when I'm in that zone, like, you can't, like, I have to be in that mode. And so for me, I know, like, I got to take that off, because like I said, once I'm out of the show and I'm like, dang, next I snap right back into you, like, oh, no, are you the character right now? Or you? What's going on? I know for me, but being such an intense person, because I love acting, I respect acting. I've always said I'm not good at anything. Anything you feel I'm good at is because I'm a great actor. So for me, acting is so sacred to me that I know that it's something that I know I'm not going to play with it necessarily unless I need to access it, as Ron said. So when I need to access it, I need to. But when I'm not, let me take it off. let me help myself out.
Okay. So I like the analogy that Ron gave of comparing the mind or matching it as an ACL.
Yeah.
So with pro athletes, you see them build their bodies up, performance. They have, great showing. After, you see what the cool down is for them. That's the icing of the legs and an ice bath, relaxing. For you guys personally, what is the healing process after a performance for your mind? Is it just simply okay, performance is good, I'm done? Or are you the type I have to sleep after a performance, or I've got to eat? Like, what's that recovery after a performance for you?
I made a snack.
Go ahead. You said you snack? You said you got a snack?
Nah. Well, I mean, for one, I hate acting on a full stomach. I don't like
Really?
it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I think for me it's distracting. I feel sluggish. I don't feel as aggressive to the story, to what the story demands, or emotionally available.
When it came to these pieces that I got for us. No, just joking. Go ahead.
I mean, afterwards, you
No,
know,
go ahead. You
I'm
good.
still, yeah. You go out there hungry. You gotta attack the stage. I gotta eat on the stage.
Right.
That's probably what I'll do. Do something like that, or I'll probably listen to another music that's not similar to what I had consumed. To get into that role, I'll probably listen to something else that just kind of phase me out of it, and just kind of get out of that mode. And having left out everything out, like usually how I get down when it comes to that stage, everything is out, everything is it's catharsis. So it's cathartic. So I just want to just totally just get out of everything and out of the shell and just chill out.
Yeah. After a show. So I'm weird. So immediately after a show, if it's a play, I wanna as they say, shake hands and kiss babies. Like I want to talk to the people and kind of get their thoughts immediately. Like, what are some of the things you like, dislike, or whatever. Just kind of get real live feedback. Which anytime I do a show, immediately after I take, my bow, I'm usually the first person out there when people walk out. I usually try to beat the people out there. And to me, it's important to have that dialogue with people because sometimes people may love what you do, they hate it or whatever. I don't feel there's anything bad as it relates to that because I think it's all necessary. Whether someone loves the show, hate the show, didn't see your part, came to your show late or whatever. I think for me, it's important for me to keep that, as they say, ear to the street and have that pulse of the community and the people. So my immediate thing is trying to reach out to the people. But usually afterwards, I'm like on such a high. I'm not thinking about anything else, but just like, just chilling and relaxing because I know in preparation for me doing a show, and I'll share this, when I remember being working retail, and I used to work at like a department store at Sears. And anytime I had to do a show, everyone knew. Because it's like everything else in my life I didn't care about. It's like, I'm doing a show. They're like, you were late 5 times. Oh, well, I don't care. I'm doing a show. Like, so anytime I know I have something going on, and that could be speaking engagements, acting class, when I'm doing anything that relates to art, it's like, for me, everything else is like on pause for me. So it's like, you could tell me something, the worst thing happened, your dog died. This, like, okay, you about to get evicted. Okay, well, just gonna get evicted. Like, so I know for me, being in that mode of preparation, I'm so in tune to that afterwards, it's like, I want to just kind of reflect, like have that moment to myself to be like, wow, okay, I performed. And Ron knows this. Sometimes you prepare for this, great big show, and sometimes it doesn't have the turnout that you want. And you may feel like, dang, man, I prepared all this time and put all this work and time and thinking like, man, did people receive it? It wasn't as many people I expected. And you have that one person and they like follow you forever after that. And they, start to, hey man, I love the show and I came to this and this, and can you sign this? And it's those moments where you feel like, dang, did anyone care? That one person or that one little kid comes up to you and be like, can you sign up for the program? It's like, oh, okay, yeah. So I think to me, after those things, being able to have some type of feeling that felt like, wow, I did it, but having that acknowledgement to be like, hey man, yes, I did this for y'all. Like having that conversation for me is always important, and being able to have after that moment for me to be like, all right, okay, let me just reflect on life and what happened. For me is definitely locking into that, my zone within myself to just kind of reflect is usually my best therapy afterwards.
Okay. I like that you said you want to get out and get to the people. So with that, after this production, when people are in their car driving away from the show, what do you want them to be saying about it?
I want people to be like, man, did you see that? There's no way. I can't believe he said that. I really want people to battle of like, Morally, I don't agree with you. What you said was not necessarily wrong for. I really want people to really tap in. I really want to, as I say, be able for us to tap in to really articulate and show these characters and show the complexity to show anyone like, wow, I kind of agree with those things. Even like they say, even a broken clock is right twice in a day. So I no matter what we have in there with these four characters, I'm sure there's going to be some part, something in the show that will relate to you, someone in your family, something you saw, or even like I said, something you completely disagree with. My biggest thing for this is to evoke dialogue. I've never done a show, I've never written a show, I've never wanted to be a part of the show where I didn't leave people with something. And that's always been my goal. Did you leave with something? Like when you came in, did you leave different than when you came in? And if you say yes, even if it's like, oh, I hated everything about, okay, you left different than what you came. I'm okay with that. So for me is I want you to leave different than you came, and I want it to evoke conversation. And Ron and I have both been in shows where we had people talk back to us on stage, right? Or say something or be very mad after a show. Not that we want that level, but what I'm saying is I feel these characters have enough, life experience and things that they have gone through and experienced and talk about that it's not one of those things just going to be a golf where you kind of like, okay, I enjoyed that performance. Like it's one of those things you're going to have to talk to the person next to you or even, looking at us, afterwards to be like, man, that one part, because they're so complex, but also I think it taps in to, as Ron said in the beginning, it taps into the psyche, the mind of men. Sometimes like, dang, I kind of agree with that. I don't know. I ain't gonna let my lady know that, but I agree with what he's saying. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just that person seeing something that maybe you may not even know that you were feeling or thought about. And it's like, oh, okay. You heard Ron say that earlier, like seeing stuff that's happening in his everyday life from the characters, like, oh, I get it. And I think that's something I had in mind when writing this of let's make these real characters. That's not, I mean, I can reach into fairy tale land and like, but I want to make real characters where you can see yourself or see people within these. So I want dialogue. I want conversation. I want you to go on our social media and talk about how much you love or hated the show. I want conversation. I want dialogue. So yes, that's my answer.
Okay, for Ron, for you?
I mean, pretty much I feel like Jay Weeks really killed that in saying that we want dialogue. We want people to, I don't necessarily want them to say a certain thing. I don't necessarily want them to come away with a certain thing, but what I want them to come away with is the necessity to feel like they have to have a conversation with someone, preferably male. If they get a chance to, or women can speak amongst themselves about what they saw. But I just want a male's perspective on this. With any conversation, I think is necessary, and that it's as challenging. It can be as challenging to anybody, regardless of gender, as to what I mean, like what had been said, what feelings that evokes. I just want people to be able to talk with us, to talk amongst themselves, talk with people that they care about, talk to people what they care about, that they care about, and be able just be able to see something or hear something or understand something that they hadn't before, or at least be on the pursuit of understanding that. Ask questions. Feel a certain way and want to talk about it. As long as these conversations are had, things can change. Things have the possibility to change in whatever way. But communication will definitely allow, that to even be able to take course.
That's great that both of you guys said dialogue, because me being the person that I am, this next question, you want dialogue. I want you both to call someone out by name who has to see this production. You know that they is gonna bring dialogue from them seeing it. You know they're gonna have something to say. Who's the person that you want to call out by name that has to see this production?
Okay.
They gonna see it. I'm gonna make sure that they see this clip.
I want my brother Deontay Hollins. I know you watching this and listening to this when it's dropped. I want you to see this for more than one reason. Number one, I've been in many shows and many productions and lots of things I've done since a youngster. But my brother has not had the opportunity to see me actually perform in an actual show. So for me, I think it would be important and imperative that you pull up on your boy and come see this show. But also as a sibling that I did not realize was my sibling until a teenager, I think it's important for us to be able to, for you to see this, for us, I think it would evoke, definitely, as Ron said, dialogue amongst us. Because like I said, we didn't realize we were siblings until many years later, but now that we locked in, tight as glue. But to see me in a different light, and to also see, as Ron, talked about, reference earlier, that vulnerability, that openness, that truth within these characters, I think will tap in to something that will definitely identify with him. So, Deontay Hollins, if you watching this, and I know you better be watching this, on y'all, you need to pull up.
Ron, who you calling now?
Ron, like, we calling people out.
Mr. BET. Tyler. Talking to you, Tyler.
Yes, sir.
We ain't hearing you, man. You need to come see us.
Pull up.
Hey, I feel like males, it never hurts to have a male's perspective, a black male's perspective. People who are so affluent and influential within the industry, and to have, especially black men, because we have to put up with so many things, that majorly, though we're not, it's not the worst, but in order for us to just literally breathe and to have to fight for that, you know what I'm saying? For every instance where if we emote, it could cost us our lives. For every time we have a bad day, and we're seen as monsters, we're seen as ultra violent, we're seen as super predators. You know what I mean? Like, to be able to be human, I think that is an experience that people of influence and affluence, and people who don't have it, but what I'm saying, they're just dropping name. But I feel like that is something, a moment to be able to see, to capture, to just be in, so yeah, Tyler, pull up. I know we know where you at.
Yeah,
I got his number. He'll get it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So as we bring it to a close, let them know how they can get tickets, where it's at, dates. Give us all the info that we need so that we can pull up.
Definitely. So the show is going to be Friday, August the 18th, as well as August the 19th at the Art Place in Marietta, Georgia. Tickets are available on Eventbrite. but also you can go to jweeksentertainment.com. We'll also post this in the visuals where it's going to have that. I am telling you now, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, do not wait to get your tickets. Do not wait to get your tickets. You will likely not be able to have the opportunity to get tickets. This show is very special. Again, August the 18th and the 19th. So the 18th, that Friday, the show is going to be at 8 p.m. Saturday, our first show is at 1 p.m., followed by a talkback. So we just decided on that. So Saturday's show at 1 o'clock. After that show, we'll have a talkback with Ron and myself for us to have open and honest dialogue with the audience. So if you want to come to that show, you want to voice what you loved or hated about the show, come to that first show on Saturday. You can tell us directly. You can tell us how you feel. So we're excited to have this talk back because, as we said, we want that dialogue. So we'll have, like I said, a talk back after that first show on Saturday, and the second show will be at 6 p.m. Please, please, please get your tickets in advance. Again, Eventbrite, also jweeksentertainment.com. You can follow us online at jweeks_ENT on all social media platforms. Also, Ron, if you want to go ahead and drop your handles too.
Yes, you can follow my IG on Film Ron Lee McGill. That is Film Ron Lee McGill.
Yes, sir. So we'll make sure we drop this. But I'm telling you, I'm challenging also, before we go, I'm challenging every male who is listening to this. Not only am I inviting you to come, but I am challenging you to invite 1 to 2 of your friends. Just tell them about it. Hey, man, you got to come. Same way they say, bring a friend to church. We want you to be here for this, to bring one of your homies, one of your boys, one of your friends, somebody you ain't rock with in a minute. We'll definitely challenge you. This is not just a show for the ladies. Trust me. Everybody who sees this, your life will change after you see this. You heard that right here. So that I'm telling you, this is definitely going to be a great show. We put a lot of time and effort into this. As you heard, 10 years in the making for this show. We've put a lot of time to really craft this and make this work. So we're excited for y'all to come out and see it. And it's going to be amazing, man. It's going to be a movie. We're excited. And I can't stop saying, just how excited I am for the world to see us, put on this show.
And we leave it out on stage. I know Jay Weeks and myself, just the way we get down and what we do, like we're gonna give it our absolute all. So, expect nothing less than that. Absolutely.
And there you have it, guys. Look, I want to see y'all there. You heard them. Get your tickets now. Don't waste no time. Get your tickets now. There you guys have it. I'm your man, Jay Boogie. And I want to see y'all there.
Yes, sir. Go online at jweeksentertainment.com. Get your tickets. What are you waiting for? Go ahead.